So you saw the title of the video and now you're confused. Ixit, you say. I thought you were a gamer. Why are you talking about sports? Well, I'll have you know, I have been a fan of sports for much longer than I have been a fan of video games. It begins when I was a wee toddler. We would go over to family events only for the sake of watching a football game. While everybody else was congregating and having conversation, my eyes were glued to the television screen. There was something so inherently magnetic about the game of football that as soon as I wasn't even old enough to play football, I was playing football. I started my football career as a first grader, playing up with the second grade division and mostly getting my ass beat. There is an inherent aesthetic quality to the violence and poetry of football. I can recall watching Troy Polamalu and Ray Lewis play defense and being like, man, that's what I want to do. But I don't love football because I'm some sort of lost chance at the NFL kind of guy. I love football because of what I can see on Saturdays and Sundays. When you sit down with your family in the living room and you have an incredible game coming up and you know that it's going to be a battle, there are very few things more exciting than seeing that game. I think in the same way that a parent can look at a video game and say that this is overwhelming and not understand it, someone who didn't grow up with sports can watch a football game and be like, okay, so why did that happen? Why is that a penalty? Why is any of this happening? How does this work? When you take the time to get into the nitty-gritty of, okay, well, they called duo, and when they're doing this guard has this responsibility, and then whenever they're trying to counter duo, this is what this 3-tech needs to do, right? There's so many small, intricate aspects to football that I can't get over it. A non-ball knower can watch a game of football and say, okay, well, it ended 40-22, whatever, right? And they can say that that wasn't really a close game. But when you really understand every aspect of what's going down on the field, every single game feels like a chess match. And I feel as though there is an equal and opposite aesthetic quality to offense and defense. Like, when you mentally get into the headspace of, like, Mike Singletary, Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, like Brian Dawkins, these smashing, these violent, these passionate people, it's easy to see the aesthetic quality of defense, which is smashing and crushing and destroying, while offense is this fluid, in and out, ever-shifting, ever-changing chess match where you have to know, okay, well, I've ran 2 wide zone runs in a row, and it's 3rd and 3, and they're probably going to come out and cover 2, and this is my cover 2 beater, and the aesthetic quality of a perfect spiral falling into the basket from 40 yards away is incomparable in any other sport. If you don't know what I mean when I say the aesthetic quality of a pass, I implore you, please, look up the Jaden Daniels Commanders Hail Mary from last year, and you will have complete understanding of what I mean. And I haven't even gotten into the narrative portion of football yet. When you're watching the AFC Championship game, and it's Bills-Chiefs for the 3rd year in a row, there is a history there, and there is a narrative there that you cannot ignore. Seeing Josh Allen win the MVP, but with no rings, and seeing Patrick Mahomes this last year go to the Super Bowl, try to three-peat, and fail. Those kind of narratives going into the game are so exciting if you understand the context behind them. Just taking into account the Super Bowl from last year, Chiefs-Eagles, they had matched up the last year in the Super Bowl, and it went the opposite way. People were wondering, is this going to be a Chiefs three-peat, or are the Eagles going to find a way to beat them? And obviously we know now that the Eagles found a way to beat them. But the narrative going into that game between will this be a three-peat or will this be the biggest upset in the history of the Super Bowl not necessarily in terms of team quality, but in narrative-wise, that's super exciting. And that's not even considering the narratives of the teams themselves. Like, take the Chiefs, for example. You have Patrick Mahomes coming off back-to-back Super Bowls, and he did not have the greatest year last year. So going into 2025, we want to see if he's going to bounce back, or if this is the beginning of some kind of regression. Same thing with the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, he did not have the best year last year. He was the least used out of his entire career, maybe since his rookie year when he was injured, of his entire career. And everyone wants to know, hey, is Taylor Swift's boyfriend going to come out and ball out for his maybe final year in the NFL? And for the Eagles, so I don't sound like a Chiefs dick sucker, Saquon Barkley last year, he left the Giants. That's the craziest shit ever. Number 2 overall pick was not re-signed by the Giants, goes to the Eagles, and people are wondering, hey, can this ultra talent perform to his highest ability with this new offensive line and this new coaching staff? And obviously he could. He almost had the most rushing yards of any player in any season in the NFL last year, and he didn't even play in the last game of the season. Seeing players like Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Zach Bond, right? All of these great players for the Eagles winning their first championship, that sets a precedent for the next year. Not necessarily that they have to win another chip, but that they need to be in the conversation. Say the Chiefs go 5-12, Jalen Hurts gets hurt, and the whole team collapses. That would be an incredible thing to see, not because I wanted to see it happen, but because it's completely unexpected, and that can happen in football. And I haven't even gotten into the draft. The NFL draft is the most exciting thing in all of professional sports. And when you spend the time that I do, and spend hundreds of hours watching dozens of schools and dozens of players in college just to see if they might be good in the NFL, it creates such a hype sphere around the NFL draft that it is the most exciting thing in sports. Just referring to the draft that just happened, the Heisman winner, Travis Hunter, was taken number 2 overall, not by the people who own the number 2 overall pick, the Browns, but the Jacksonville Jaguars traded up and got him. That guy won the Heisman and was considered by a lot of people the best player in the draft, and somebody traded up to get him. Take Shedeur Sanders, for example. Obviously not an ideal situation, but he was considered a first-round pick by a lot of people. Not me, obviously. But he was considered a first-round pick by a lot of people. He got taken in the 5th round. Things can happen in the NFL that cannot happen in any other sport. There is an inherent poetic quality to football in the way that any game in the schedule could go either way. If it's the Chiefs versus the Browns, or say the Eagles versus the Titans, right? The number 32 pick versus the number 1 overall pick. That's not a done deal. There is no guarantee that the Eagles win that game. Because in the end of the day, you have to play the game. And that's what makes sports so exciting, especially football. When you see a team setting up for a game-winning drive, you know that it's going to end one of 2 ways. Either they're going to score and they're going to win the game, or they're not and they're going to lose. That dichotomy, in that moment where you know the game is on the line, that kind of excitement is not replicated with any other sport other than maybe basketball. And I haven't even gotten to talk about college football yet. College football may be even more exciting than the NFL. There are more teams, there are more rivalries, there is more history to college football than even the NFL. When you combine the narratives and the high-paced games and the trash talk and the rivalries and everything that goes into football, both at the collegiate and professional level, I can't imagine being a fan of anything else as much as I am football. So if you're seeing this video and you have never taken the time to dedicate an afternoon to watching some football, I implore you, please, give it a chance. I think it will hook you much faster and much stronger than you would believe.